Every time you swipe your phone or hop on a video call, you're tapping into decades and decades of history. Most of the pioneers behind this stuff, they're household names, right? But some of them, they're like ghosts in the machine. Their work is literally everywhere, but their names are known to almost no one. Today, we're going to find one of those ghosts and tell the story of a man's inventions you probably use every single day. All right, let's start with a little quiz. So picture this. It's 1990. The internet is still kind of this niche hobby for academics. Who, in that world, was already building a working prototype of a smartphone? And I mean, with both voice and data. That is a full 17 years before the iPhone. Any ideas? Okay, how about this one? Who had the wild idea to open the world's first internet cafe way, way back in 1980? We're talking a time when most people didn't even know what the internet was, and this guy was already connecting people to online news and games.
And let's go back even further. Who was putting the first microprocessors, the actual brains of a computer, into smart toys for kids back in the late 1970s?
Now, here's the real kicker. What if I told you that the answer to all of those questions, spanning decades and totally different industries, was the exact same person? That's right. The answer is Scott Joy. He's the common thread, the ghost in the machine who pioneered a just staggering number of technologies that really define our modern world. And hey, don't just take my word for it. In his own words, his entire career has been driven by one single mission: identifying, developing, and applying new information and communication technologies. And let me tell you, that mission led him to create some absolutely extraordinary things. So let's dive in. This is a lifetime of firsts, packed with some truly trailblazing inventions that were consistently years and sometimes even decades ahead of their time. This gives us a quick flyover of his whole entrepreneurial journey. Look at this. We start in '76 with microprocessor toys. Then we jump to 1990, boom, the first smartphones and tablets. And then we land in '96 with early peer-to-peer wireless tech. So let's unpack these a bit. And it all starts right here. In 1976, Joy's company, Cyanico, started putting literal brains into toys. I mean, this was revolutionary stuff back then. He created Smart Alec, which was one of the very first computers made for kids, and he even designed ROM, a cyborg toy that was so popular it got its own Marvel comic book series. Okay, now let's fast forward to 1990, and Telepad Corp. This is where he developed the Uni, a prototype with touch input, voice, and data. Let that sink in for a second. This was, for all intents and purposes, a smartphone, almost 2 decades before the iPhone. He also made some of the first tablet PCs, and the company was so successful it went public and raised over $25 million in its first year alone. And, people at the time, they knew this was a huge deal. In 1995, Penn Computing magazine called his Telepad 3 a complete rethinking of what a portable computer should be. And they didn't just say it was a neat idea, they said it succeeded brilliantly. But here's the thing. Joy's work wasn't just about the cool gadgets. Running right alongside all this hardware innovation was another obsession, building not just the tools, but the spaces and the systems for people to actually connect and communicate.
Perfect example, the Planet Restaurant, which he opened in 1980 in Washington, D.C. This was, you could argue, the world's very first internet cafe. He set up these computer terminals and a lounge, connected them to The Source, which was this early online service that inspired AOL, and just let people access news, games, and online chats. It was a physical space for digital connection, an idea that wouldn't really go mainstream for another 10 years.
And that vision, that idea of connection, it carried through to his later work at George Mason University. At this point, his focus kind of shifted from commercial tech to building community. He launched these collaborative labs, he mentored over 50 interns, and he even organized events to bring students and the public face-to-face with political candidates. Yeah, and this slide really brings it all into focus, doesn't it? On one side, you've got his work pioneering the tools, the microprocessors, the smartphones, the wireless tech. And on the other side, you've got his work pioneering the conversation, all the way from the first internet cafe to academic collaboration and ultimately to digital democracy. So where has this entire lifetime of building both tools and conversations led him now? Well, it seems like it's all come together in his most ambitious project yet, a platform called On Air. So what is it? At its core, On Air is a knowledge-sharing system.
It's basically designed to let content creators actually own their own work and then share it across a whole network of different communities or hubs.
But the technology is really just the means to an end. The goal behind it is what truly brings his life's work full circle. The whole mission of the US On-Air Network is built on 3 simple but really powerful steps. Learn from sources you can actually trust, discuss ideas with everyone from experts to your neighbors, and then ultimately find common ground through civil, constructive conversation.
And to make that happen, the platform is structured as a nonpartisan nonprofit, and that's a really key detail. It's a network of 50 state hubs that all feed into one national hub, and they're all aimed at a single, simple goal: to bring Americans together so we can all become better informed and more engaged in our democracy.
Which brings us to the final and I think most fascinating question. Scott Joy spent decades inventing the very tools, personal computers, smartphones, wireless networks, that have profoundly shaped our modern world, for better and for worse. And now, it seems, his final project is an attempt to use a new kind of tool to help us navigate the really complex future he helped create. So the question is, can the man who helped build our digital world also help us fix it? Well, that remains to be seen.